Hello again. We've arrived in Canberra and we're excitedly looking forward to England's next group stage match later on today against Thailand. But first up, we're going to review the couple of matches that have taken place since we did our England-South Africa post-mortem. And the first one was Australia-Sri Lanka, which nearly threw up a bit of a shock result, didn't it, Sid?
Well, sort of nearly. I think that what it really showed more than anything was, why Australia are the overwhelming favourites to win this tournament. That even though they wound up in what looked like a horrendous position at 10 for 3, was it? Or 3 for 10 if you're Australian. They still, clinically ground out the result, and that felt like there was a certain inevitability to that. So, a little bit of a scare for Australia, but at the end of the day they did the job, and that's what they're going to keep on doing. They've got so much strength in depth.
Yeah, I thought that Sri Lanka put in a convincing performance, and certainly Chamari Atapattu in the press conference afterwards seemed relatively happy with the way things had gone. Obviously they would have liked to have won the match, but I think to be honest, given how poorly Sri Lanka have performed over the last few years, and the fact that they've seemed to some extent to be going downhill after that dramatic victory against England in the 2013 50 over World Cup, it was actually just really nice to see them competing against the world's best team. So I thought that was actually really positive from that perspective. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the second match on that day was India-Bangladesh, and that ended up being a reasonably clinical victory for India in the end.
Yeah, and you're looking good, aren't they, Raf?
Yeah, I think so. I was saying to you just before that I was going to make a bit of a bold prediction in this video, so here it comes. I think India are going to win this tournament. I think this is their time. I just genuinely feel that since the last World T20 in 2018 in the Caribbean, when they were resoundingly beaten by England in the semi-final, they really seem to have got their act together, particularly in this format of the game. They just feel like a more dynamic side, and Shefali Verma is just incredible what she can do with the bat.
Yeah, it's not just the weight of runs from Shefali, well, it's not even the weight of runs, it's how fast she scores them and how much it gives impetus to the innings. And if she can carry on scoring kind of 30s off 15 balls at the top of the innings, and that takes so much pressure off later on in the innings, and that's where the difference is with India, I think.
So do you agree that they're going to win?
No.
Well, watch this space to see who's right. Okay, and we've got two matches coming up today. The second match is going to be West Indies against Pakistan. Could be a good one, Sid?
Yeah, I think this could be quite a good game. I think Pakistan will definitely be thinking that they can beat the West Indies. Pakistan finished well ahead of the West Indies in the ICC Championship cycle, so it should be a good competitive match.
Okay, but obviously before that, we've got the big one as far as we're concerned, England against Thailand. Now, is it a must-win, Sid, for England?
Mathematically, it's not a must-win. It's definitely the case that if they lose today, they could still qualify for the semi-finals, but they would be horrendously dependent upon a series of unlikely results. So it's kind of practically a must-win, I think.
Yeah, and obviously England have never faced Thailand before in internationals, this being their first ever World Cup. We saw the other day that Thailand did give West Indies a little bit of a scare, and we know that they're particularly strong with the ball. I think if I was Thailand, and given the way that they've been bowling recently and the way that England have been batting recently, i.e. quite poorly, I would be tempted to, if I won the toss, to put England in and really kind of pile the pressure on that way. Say to them, we don't think that you can beat us with the bat.
Yeah, I think that's the one way that they've one route they've got to causing an upset, and even that, I think they'd have to be looking to bowl England out for 80. If they can bowl England out for 80, then they might have a chance. We've seen that their real issue is going to be finding the boundary. That looks to be their issue from the one game that we've seen them play here, and that means that we're probably looking about anything much more than 80, then England are going to be safe. But the other consideration that England need to bear in mind is they must try and get some net run rate boost from this game. England kind of ignored that in the Tri-Series and paid the price by not qualifying for the Tri-Series final. They really need to kind of ensure that they can pile on the runs here, and then if England bat first, they should be looking to get 150 odd. They got 150 odd a couple of times at this ground in the Tri-Series. So it definitely can happen. That's not to say that they shouldn't take the bowling seriously, but they should be looking to target that kind of a score, and then hopefully keep them down to around 80 or so, or whatever the run rate equivalent is.
And Heather Knight got a couple of good scores here in the Tri-Series, didn't she? I think 78 and 67, so she'll certainly be looking to capitalise again. I do think, though, that England have got a bit of a difficult balancing act there, because if they refuse to take the Thailand bowlers seriously enough and they just think that they can come out and wallop it round the grounds in order to try and boost their net run rate, then they could end up in a little bit of a mess for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Respect the bowling, but at the end of the day, England really ought to be a much better team, on the books and on the day.
Okay. And lots of people on Twitter and on various other mediums have been asking whether England are going to change their batting tactics, which have been a little bit controversial, the ones that they've adopted under new coach Lisa Kiteley, in terms of playing 8 batsmen and also having Tammy Beaumont coming in down the order, so normally at 6, but she obviously came in at 7 after Catherine Brunt the other day in their opener. So what do we think might happen there, Sid?
Well, Heather Knight's been pretty clear in the press conference overnight. Nothing. No change, no surrender. Never. I think that they've decided that they're going to stick with this for the World Cup, and I think in some ways that's fair enough. I think that if you're going to make a change like that, you've got to back it. There's no point in making a change of that magnitude and then after 2 games going, oh no, we're running away from it. So respect Heather for doing that. It's probably the right call. If you're going to make that change, back it all the way down, and give it a little bit of time to see whether it works out, because 2 games isn't really enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the other hand, that's the obvious target for criticism if they do end up, not doing well enough to get to the semi-finals, or potentially even crashing out in the semi-finals because of a poor batting performance. That will be an obvious target, as I say, for criticism. So we'll have to see whether it works out. We'll have to see whether Lisa Kiteley and Heather Knight know better than us and other people on Twitter.